Today we got Jordan Peterson calmly dismantles feminism in front of two feminists. Oh boy. Jesus bless. It says calmly. That's my one gripe with Ben Shapiro, is he is very condescending, very pompous. Like, I don't like the way that he delivers. Okay? Jordan Peterson calmly dismantles. If this person is gonna be like Ben Shapiro in terms of wit and sharpness, but calm, gonna be my favorite dude on the planet.
One of the biggest reasons Jordan Peterson is so popular, and I can't resist diving deeper and deeper into his catalog, is because the world has gone mad and he's saying what most of us are thinking, except he's doing it in a more factual, logical, and eloquent manner.
I was feeling a bit edgy today, and by that I mean I want to watch a Jordan Peterson calmly dismantles feminism in front of two feminists. So here we go. Jordan Peterson calmly dismantles feminism in front of two feminists. Oh boy, this should be fun.
One of our guests of the day, the other one today, is a man you may recognise, or maybe you don't. Jordan Peterson has achieved that rare feat, becoming a global super...
I don't know if I'm reading into it already, but I feel like that was kind of a slight. She's like, you might know this, but you probably don't. Like, you probably don't know him.
Or maybe you don't. Jordan Peterson has achieved that rare
boy
feat,
JP.
becoming a global superstar academic. So how did he become so well known? He first came to national prominence in Canada in 2016 in a debate about new laws on gender identity. Bill C-16 made it an offence to refuse to call someone by their chosen gender pronoun. Jordan Peterson argued that this...
They made it a bill that you can't offend somebody?
Anything that forces you to say something is an attack against your free speech and your free will. Ridiculous.
While some supporters of the bill said he was advocating prejudice. From there, his YouTube star took off, and he has now over 1 million subscribers. And his videos, where he talks everything from identity politics, which we've touched on, to the Bible, to Disney movies, have been viewed over 150 million times. Gosh, that's about the same number of viewers we have on this programme. Last year, he supported ex-Google employee James Damore, who had been fired for suggesting men and women have different interests due to biological differences.
How dare he!
Yeah.
How dare he be making sense?
His book, 12 Rules for Life, has taken him on a
I do want to read that.
global tour promoting his ideas, and just this week he sold out the 1,000-seater Emmanuel Centre around the corner here in Westminster.
Such shade, dude. Throwing shade already. My God.
So Jordan, you've done endless interviews. You've been publicising your book, and they've generated plenty of heated debate.
No, I actually sold out the Apollo. It had 5,000 seats.
All right, stop boasting. Do you think, though, because of the heat that has been generated, that your views have been misrepresented at times?
Oh, definitely, but that's, you know, that's part and parcel of the process. I did take a very forceful stance, let's say, against some of the excesses of the radical left-wingers, and it's in their best interest to paint me as somehow a figure of the extreme right.
Dude, I love how fucking calm he is. The title's right, he is calm. And he's very eloquent as well. Jesus Christ.
In terms of some of the issues, I mean, you say you've been painted as an extreme right-winger.
No, some people have tried that. Not very successfully, but they've tried it. And
you came to prominence in part over your opposition to this law that we just talked about in Canada, proposing the use of preferred pronouns for transgender people. Just for clarity...
Mandating them.
Yeah.
Right.
Saying that you should do it.
No, but that you had to do it.
Right, you had to do it by law, but just for...
Notice how particular he is. Like, he seems to be very careful with his word choice. When people are particular and get hung up on the words you use, whether it's...
Did you guys know that the most recent movie by Olivia Wilde, one of the characters, terrible character, was created after Jordan Peterson, and when he was told this, it actually made him emotional because they created him out to just be a monster. And I think people forget that people are human beings and have emotions, and we just live in a very cold world, I feel like.
But I mean, it's easy for people's views to be oversimplified in a very large public debate.
I mean, in terms of some of the issues, I mean, you say you've been painted as an extreme right-winger.
No, some people have tried that. Not very successfully, but they've tried it.
And you came to prominence in part over your opposition to this law that we just talked about in Canada, proposing the use of preferred pronouns for transgender people. Just for clarity...
Mandating them.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Saying that you should do it.
insane.
No, that you had to do it.
Right, you had to do it by...
I cannot imagine mandating things like that so that you don't offend people. Like, in a perfect world, sure, but you can't get rid of... That's just like trying to please everybody, and it just doesn't work.
Oh, definitely, but that's, you know, that's part and parcel of the process. I did take a very forceful stance, let's say, against some of the excesses of the radical left-wingers, and it's in their best interest to paint me as somehow a figure of the extreme right, because then I don't have to be contended with. But
yeah, and,
exactly.
That's how.
Just label him and he's over.
Yeah, that's how that side works with everything. Just look at now with the deet. If you don't want this deet, then you're an anti all deet. You know what I mean? Which is bullshit. So they that's their lazy ass method to just shut down shit. They don't have the energy or the
and also the personal attack that you're a racist and you're this and you're that, instead of you know, going with fact. What is he saying? Why am I not, you know, agreeing with his thoughts, or, you know, things like this, and not go... I think it was Bill Burr that said that in a comedy show or something, that when he and his wife argued, as soon as she started to go with the personal attack, he knew he won.
Yeah,
then
he
it was
knew
over.
he had her.
Yeah, you know, he knew he was right, and she couldn't accept it, and that is why she went with the personal attack. And I think that goes for everyone in
everything.
Yeah, in all
right?
kinds of arguments.
Because it indicates that you ain't got nothing to argue against the whatever you're discussing. You have nothing to say against that, so you're left to the only resort you have, personal attack. You know?
I mean, it's easy for people's views to be oversimplified in a very large public debate.
I mean, in terms of some of the issues, I mean, you say you've been painted as an extreme right-winger.
No, some people have tried that. Not very successfully, but they've tried it.
And you came to prominence in part over your opposition to this law that we just talked about in Canada, proposing the use of preferred pronouns for transgender people. Just for clarity...
Mandating them.
Yeah.
Right.
Saying that you should do it.
Mandate.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
No, but that you had to do it.
Right, you had... Just for clarity, do you think a trans woman is a real woman?
I don't really like the way those questions are.
Yeah, I mean, that's just setting them up. Can you define woman? I'm not a biologist.
Formulated. You know, I don't know what that means. What do you mean a real woman?
Well, I'm asking you, in your mind, you know, it depends what you think a real woman is, but do you...
What do you think a real woman is?
Man, in the comments, man, what is a real woman in your mind? Because she said it's all about what's in your mind, so...
Do you think a trans woman is a woman?
No.
I'm sorry, I stopped you. I just wanted to hear this answer in the full context.
Yeah, and the world exploded.
Yeah.
Which it shouldn't. Why the fuck would it explode to that?
Why not?
What do you mean, why not?
Because I think that women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have an XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant. It doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think that people should be treated with respect and dignity if they happen not to fit easily into a gender category. That's a different issue.
Right.
But it's a matter of definition, and I actually think it's a foolish argument in some sense, because what do you mean by real?
Well, I mean, you've just clarified.
Just that you need to point that out. Do you think T-gender is a real woman? Just that you need to say that already answers it. Because otherwise you wouldn't need to say...
Do you think that that is what is behind or explains your opposition to this idea of a law mandating you to use a preferred pronoun? Is because you don't actually believe that that's the truth, that a trans woman is a woman and therefore you can't use that pronoun?
No, that's not my argument at all.
Really?
Yeah, really. My argument is that the government shouldn't compel voluntary speech.
No, but I know what your argument is, and
no,
you've
but
made
that's
it very
really
clearly.
It.
But
no, but that's exactly it.
But the motivation behind it.
There's no motivation behind it.
But you don't believe
I wouldn't have put
trans woman is a
everything on my online in my life to take the stance I did unless I had thought that through very deeply. And I've thought it through very deeply. There aren't hidden motivations that have to do with some arbitrary prejudice against trans people.
Wow.
It's purely...
He
pure
is sharp as fuck, dude! That's what I want to be like. I want to be like that. Notice that I'm very not calm during these videos, but that is just so admirable. One of the many...
Do you think that that is what is behind or explains your opposition to this idea of a law mandating you to use a preferred pronoun, is because you don't actually believe that that's the truth, that a trans woman is a woman and therefore you can't use that pronoun?
No, I think he's just saying it should not be mandated that people have to comply to preferences as to not offend people. I think it's pretty easy on your own to be kind to people in that way, but it should not be a mandated thing.
No, that's not my argument at
Really?
all. Yeah, really. My argument is that the government shouldn't compel voluntary speech.
No, but I know what your argument is, and
No,
you've
but
made
that's
it very
really
clearly.
it.
But
No, but that's exactly it. There's
but
no
the
behind.
motivation
There's
behind
no
it.
motivation behind it.
But you don't believe
I
a
wouldn't
trans
put
woman is a woman.
everything on my online in my life to take the stance I did unless I had thought that through very deeply. And I've thought it through very deeply. There aren't hidden motivations that have to do with some arbitrary prejudice against trans people.
Okay.
It's pure and simply this. There's never been a time in English common law history where the government compelled speech, and the Canadian government dared to do that. And that was unacceptable. And they masked it with this show of compassion for the oppressed, and I don't buy it.
Right, but you would, as I think you said, at an individual level, if somebody asked you, somebody asked you to use a particular pronoun, you would do so.
Well, I have.
You have?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you could see that as somebody saying, my name is Veronica. Okay, hello, Veronica.
Yeah.
You know, you can see it as that.
Right,
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
Let's talk about feminism. Are you a feminist?
No, not as it's currently defined, certainly not.
No, well, in any other definition?
That's super important. I feel like people nowadays are arguing over shit, and they're not even arguing with the same definitions in mind. Necessary to define your terms when arguing, right? I mean, it makes sense. So let's see where they go.
Well, I think that anybody who doesn't think that the competitive landscape should be opened up for equality of opportunity is not thinking. And so everyone's interests are better served if people have as equal access to opportunity to display their talents and to manifest their talents in the world as possible. So in that sense,
he's so well spoken.
But
Fuck,
feminism
dude.
now,
One of the traits that I just
why it's so deeply unpopular. A very small minority of women in the UK identify as feminists, and the reason for that is it's primarily become an ideological weapon, and it's an ideology that I detest, actually. Yes.
Let's talk about feminism. Are you a feminist?
No, not as it's currently defined, certainly not.
No,
Exactly.
well, in any other definition?
Well, I think that anybody who doesn't think that the competitive landscape should be opened up for equality of opportunity is not thinking. And so everyone's interests are better served if people have as equal access to opportunity to display their talents and to manifest their talents in the world as possible.
Exactly.
So in that sense, certainly. But feminism now, and this is why it's so deeply unpopular, a very small minority of women in the UK identify as feminists. And the reason for that is it's primarily become an ideological weapon.
Yep.
And it's an ideology that I detest, actually. Yep. The ideology that it's associated with, collectivist ideology.
Right.
They've taken feminism and just totally just morphed it into something that I don't align with. Because, I mean, obviously I'm a woman, at least I hope it's obvious, and of course, why would I not want to support women and feminism, period, but not with what feminism is connected to in today's society. Like, no, it's absolutely, I love the way you put it, it's used as a weapon, and I don't think it has good outcomes. It's not beneficial for women, actually.
I mean, okay, and that's your view about... Aisha, are you a feminist?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a very proud feminist, and when I was...
Good luck getting men. Good luck getting men other than betas.
was a special advisor in government. I worked on women and equality issues, and I was very proud actually of a piece of legislation I got on the statute book with my former boss Harriet Harman, the Equality Act in 2010, which strengthened our anti-discrimination laws. And I fought very hard to get more women into public life, into the Labour Party, and I'm very, very proud of being a feminist, hence my pink dress.
Oh, well.
So every woman loves pink.
What happened with the... Weren't they against the what do you say? That women likes... women are a certain color, pink, and men are blue.
Men and women are equal. They are the same. There are no differences between men and women. Wasn't that?
Yeah, that's what they said. Yet she's like, that's why I'm wearing pink. These people are so stupid.
All right, obviously reverting to type then in the pink dress.
Absolutely, well...
You would like men to regain or reclaim their strength physically, mentally and morally. Is that broadly correct?
I would say morally, fundamentally, but I think the other things go along with that.
Right, and if that...
But it isn't men precisely who I'm speaking to. It's people. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm actually interested in individuals, and I'm interested in their fortification against tragedy. You know, every time I do an interview, the interview is always political. It's always political.
Well, the clue is in the title of this programme. We are the Daily Politics.
No, fair enough. No, look, fair enough. And I'm not casting aspersions at this programme, but the fundamental...
Casting aspersions? Who says that? That's fucking cool. I want to do that shit. It makes me feel like Walter White whenever you say some shit like they're probably doing some clandestine activity, you know? It's just like one of those things that's like you don't hear every day, the way that they put it. Very bizarre. Or whenever he says, I'm gonna go collect my children. I just think that it's some weird things like that that in my mind I put those things in a bucket and I'm like, that's something that like a dad would say. I don't know.
The fundamental news that's important about what I'm doing isn't the political element. And the people who talk to me don't talk politically. They say they've watched my lectures.
But part
and
of it is that I think for a lot of people the kind of personal does become the political.
Or the political becomes the personal.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the...
Yeah, but in this situation, a lot of people are wrong, because primarily what's happening is people are watching my lectures, and as a consequence, their lives are improving dramatically.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm sure people are like, have had a huge conversion after, and they're much happier once they've been...
It's not a conversion.
But what I would like to do is kind of almost... I think at the moment, the discussion about feminism is very divisive, and sometimes it can sort of be like, okay, men have to lose and women have to gain. Actually, everybody has a lot to gain by greater equality. Now, whether you get the equality of outcome that you want, I think only time will tell. But certainly, equality of opportunity is very important. And actually,
we can agree on that.
And a lot of men would benefit from that. So I think a lot of men are having a lot of crises at the moment in terms of mental health, suicide issues, their own sense of identity, because I think some of the stereotypes put on men are quite limiting for them as well. I think they make men quite unhappy as well.
The devil's in the details with regards to equality, because I'm an advocate of equality of opportunity. But I think the idea... Outcomes, that's an appalling doctrine.
Why?
All right, well, hang on.
Because you have to... Outcomes, that's an appalling doctrine.
Why?
All right, well, hang on.
Because you have to produce an unbelievably potent bureaucracy to make the ever greater and ever finer distinctions that are necessary to enforce equality of outcome. How many group differences are you going to equalize across? Is it just gender and sex? How many genders?
No, so
gender and ethnicity? How many genders? How many ethnicities? How many races?
We'll let Aisha answer.
I think what people are trying to do with this, and certainly as somebody who has sought to sort of do this myself, I think you set yourself ambitions for what you would like to see, and then you try and remove as many of the structural barriers and obstacles. So you try and create that fair crack of the whip and that equality of opportunity to see where you get to with the outcomes.
Excuse me, but not until I see feminists fighting for the sewer jobs, plumbing jobs, and all of those things, not until I see that will I believe these people. Because there's nowhere to find them. You know what I mean? They are not fighting for the sewer jobs.
No.
Because if you're gonna be equal, let's do it.
They're fighting for the banking job and the web design job.
Where they can just push a pen on a paper and get like.
Or maybe that will jobs that will level up their status or something like. Firefighter, police, that will make, you're a police, wow, good.
Yeah.
But, no one wants to be work in the mine or work in the sewers.
Yeah, so you can't claim you want equality and not go for every job.
Yourself ambitions for what you would like to see, and then you try and remove as many of the structural barriers and obstacles. So you try and create that, you know, fair crack of the whip and that equality of opportunity to see where you get to with the outcomes.
That's
now,
fine.
we are in very early stages. It's only 100 years since, you know, women got the vote in this country. You know, we have had a long established patriarchal society and set up for a long time in the world in this country. So I think we have a long way to go to see where it plays out.
I'm laughing because I'm reading the title again up top. Calmly dismantles. It's like, that's such a good way to put it, because it's just like killer instinct, but done so in a light, bubbly way, kind of. Very respectful argument here, and I do appreciate that.
There is no country in the world where, you know, we really do have gender equality properly yet in terms of real decision making and real
Some of the
power.
Scandinavian countries, maybe?
But they're still not quite there, and I think you've spoken a lot about this. There's still a way to go in Scandinavia. Things are not perfect in Scandinavia.
I haven't spoken about that specifically. I've spoken about
you spoke about the right stuff yesterday. You talked about the Scandinavian.
Well, I've spoken about the fact that, see, one of the things that's happened in the analysis of the differences between men and women is that the social constructionist claim is that the differences are socially constructed, right? Is that it's a consequence of environment that men and women differ. But what the scientific literature indicates is that as cultures become more egalitarian, like they have in Scandinavia, the differences between men and women actually increase rather than decreasing, which is a direct repost to the social constructionist view. So they just deny all that. The biggest differences in the world in interest and temperament are between Scandinavian men and women. It's exactly the opposite of what everyone predicted.
Can I just pick up on one thing you said a little earlier in the interview, which you said it's the moral guidance that you are focused on. You think that is particularly important. How do you square that with the behaviour of perhaps arguably, you know, a prominent alpha male president of the United States, Donald Trump? When his behaviour, I mean, he is accused of having an affair with a porn star when his wife was pregnant. How does that fit with morally reclaiming?
Well, you know, I would say that was rather clearly immoral.
Right.
Yeah,
but
not to be a target for emulation.
But you still would have voted for him over Hillary Clinton as an identity politics. I mean, it's just how
none
do
of that
you
was on the table, and I said I might have voted for him on a whim.
So they ask him a baited question, and then they don't let him answer. Like, you have the nerve to reach a conclusion for him. It's amazing. It's interesting, ain't it? Because they ask him all these baited questions, and they don't even give him the chance to explain himself. But again, his patience is like titanium. He takes it to the chest, takes it to the chin, and then he hits him with the proper, eloquent, factual, timely response. While they're getting emotional, he's still staying cool, staying composed, staying logical. And that's how you get people to your side. When you get emotional, when you start bashing, belittling, or just things get heated, nobody wins at that situation. And that's why he's so good at this. That's why I cannot do this. That's why I'm breaking this down, giving my opinion, having conversation with y'all, and bringing my approach to it. But I couldn't do these debates like this because I do get passionate about this. My foundation is in this. But as an evangelical, as somebody who's just working to get better as a man, love more people, love God, and put everything into perspective, I got to get better at that. That's my sin. We're all sinners. That's why I admit I need a savior, because I'm not trying to come to judgment and say I believe in God, but really I'm not walking like I believe in God, and then, you know, it gets toasty. I'm not trying to do that. So this is why Jordan is the man.
Reclaiming.
Well, you know, I would say that was rather clearly immoral.
Right.
Yeah,
but you would still,
not to be a target for emulation.
But you still would have voted for him.
Not to be a target of emulation. I like that, dude. I'm gonna start working shit into my daily speech like that. You just sound powerful when you talk like that. That is so awesome, man.
Over Hillary Clinton as an identity politics. I mean, it's just how
none
do
of that
you
was on the table, and I said I might have voted for him on a whim. That's all.
But you also did say you started out feeling quite close to Hillary Clinton. Can I just come on the
very quickly, because we've got to move on.
In a way, I don't care what Trump does in terms of his private life, but what I don't have is him stopping or potentially stopping other women having agency over their reproductive rights, and lots of men taking those decisions.
It's all about where the moral outrage lies, and what's more morally outrageous in people's eyes. Is it his behaviour or the identity politics for you on the... Anyway, we'll have to discuss this another time.
That's actually funny. Dude, I mean, what can I say, man? Jordan Peterson seems to be so level-headed, so calm and rational that it makes me feel like it is the perfectly crafted argument, because he's actually not emotional at all, in the sense that he is able to listen to everything the other side is saying so that he can perfectly rebut it. He's extraordinarily careful with his word choice. It's so interesting to watch. It is fun, man. Makes me feel like I'm watching a course in how to argue. And I don't think he said anything that I disagree with. He's a damn psychologist. He's talking about social studies. Very interesting. Would definitely like to get into some more of Jordan Peterson's things. And with that being said, that's where you guys come in. So drop some comments down below. Let me know what you think about good old JP himself, and I will